but I believe it's fixed already.
And we are into Champ Select Song. Cue up my fancy LCS Champ Select music that I took the trouble of getting before the game. Alright, and we're in. So for this game, it's going to be 905 eSports on the red side and Team Poro Land on the blue side.
I recommend skipping.
Starting off with the Lulu ban, this has been something we've seen a lot at Worlds, and it's proven to be a really powerful Ordnance support in the current meta.
Yeah, I find the Lulu ban kind of interesting. I was thinking these teams would lean a little more towards banning out.
I won't be denied.
Probably the bot lane, but I wasn't expecting Lulu so much, as neither of the supports really have much of her in their match history. I know on the side of 905, they focus on mostly Recon, it looks like, and a couple engaged supports such as Thresh and Alistar. And as far as Zulmarie goes, she plays quite a bit of Ardent supports, so I think they would have a rough time banning them out. I think the bot lane bans would be a big thing to focus on 905.
Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, and
whereas they would ban top and jungle for Poro Land.
Yeah, with the Sejuani ban coming out, that seems like something fairly standard, but the Riven, it looks to be targeted more at Bombay Kit, the top laner.
As you wish.
And on the side of Poro Land, they seem pretty committed to banning out these top two Ardent supports so that they can try and dictate a bit more of the tempo in the bot lane.
I think it makes a lot of sense, too, because both of them have a fairly good disengage. Lulu can be played a little more offensively, I believe. But if they're banning out Janna, they might be looking to do some hard engaging.
That's going to be a second target ban thrown at the top laner of Poro Land, just trying to shut down his potential to possibly solo carry. We'll see what they end up locking in. I'm sure his champion pool runs a bit deeper than simply Riven and Fiora.
Top lane should be a good matchup to watch tonight. Both top laners seem to focus more on picking carry tops rather than some of the tankier tops we're used to seeing in Worlds and the pro meta.
And that's a Tryndamere being locked in first on the side of Poro Land. Now, this is obviously interesting. If your RNG blesses you appropriately, you can get some really insane damage off in trades during the first few levels with Tryndamere. But it looks like 905 is going to go ahead and lock in the Renekton to contest that. Top lane is in fact going to be a very important thing to watch with the amount of early power both the champions bring to the table.
I agree, and I think it was very smart that Team 905 matched with the Bruiser top. It looks like they're both going to be focusing on split pushing.
And that's an Alistar locked in second, so despite the fact that we've already gotten rid of two of the most prized disengaged supports in the game right this second, 905 are looking to push the fact that the other side may be going for something a bit more aggressive in the lane and take the Alistar, hopefully where it won't get bullied out quite as hard. And that is an Evelynn immediately after rework, locked in on the side of Poro Land. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one to see.
I do think it should be noticed, Neo Sai has been playing a lot of Evelynn recently.
I haven't actually gotten a chance to test out the rework yet, but I've seen stuff, and the amount of mobility with the ult and the charm that this new rework brings as an advantage over the old one is going to mean 905 is going to have to play very carefully around the maps as soon as she hits her level 6, because the tower dive potential is through the roof.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the same time, we see Kayn also locked in. So obviously they've got something planned. I assume the Evelynn can't really go anywhere but jungle, seeing as your kit is exclusively tailored for this. But we could be looking at a Kayn mid to sort of add some of that roaming presence and the threat of appearing in side lanes.
I can see that. It looks like Poro Land is trying to have a lot of map pressure, especially early on. It looks like at the moment 905 would probably have a better team fight.
Yeah, the Rammus ban coming out from the side of Poro Land strikes me, while a bit unconventional, as a good idea, seeing that they're trying to hedge their bets against anyone with a lot of disruption and tankiness getting into the backline. And with the targeted taunt against both the Tryndamere and the Kayn, that can really slow down their ability to single out targets, you know, get a pick and then disengage before what we're looking at being the team fight power of 905, damaging their ability to come out ahead in trades. see the hyper carries of Twitch and Kog'Maw banned away by both of these teams. While there hasn't been any AD carry looked in for either side, I imagine that they're going to want something that has some ability to provide self-peel, maybe less so on the side of 905 since they do have a front line between Renekton and Alistar. But the Draven is looking to perhaps contest some of this early power, because if they can get him snowballing, it doesn't necessarily matter if you have a very fed set of assassins on the other side. If they haven't gotten to snowball the same way, a Death Stance Draven can sustain through a surprising amount of burst in the mid game. That's countered with a Vayne. That's good perhaps for being able to impale Draven back if he tries to go aggressive in lane, but that could be difficult given the amount of trouble Vayne can have sometimes scaling into the mid game if she's being harassed out. Luckily, the fact that they have an Alistar in there that they're laning against means that the threat of ranged poke isn't quite as severe.
I do think that it looks like 905 may have outpicked Poro Land in the bot lane. They have a lot of hard engage and they want to cash in on that Draven early. If Draven sits there with a lot of gold or dies and doesn't snowball, he could become somewhat useless as the game progresses when they need him to be strong. And the Vayne will only get stronger and stronger. But they should be able to hard engage on that Soraka pretty well.
Yeah, the way I see the game plan playing out here for Poro Land is trying to leverage their solo lanes, in which they do have some really strong damage dealing champions in the early game, combined with the rotations of the Evelynn, to try and get an advantage there at the beginning. Maybe try and push down the top tower or the mid tower early, and then rotate that bot lane out of what might otherwise be an unfavorable matchup. So we'll see if they're able to deliver on that idea of rotational play. But as time ticks down, they're going to get in. We're going to wait a little bit with the spectator delay. And yeah, so if we just sort of go through lane by lane, top lane, Tryndamere has taken Ignite. The summoner spells are a bit cut off on the right side of the screen, for streaming. But that's going to be into a teleport from the Renekton. So this sort of plays to that idea of trying to pressure him in early and make sure that Renekton and Kha'Zix have to spend time playing around the possible roams from Kayn and the invisibility from Evelynn. We're going to see the teleport taken in the mid lane, however, so that there is still some level of map pressure and ability to put other people in should, for example, 905 attempt to dive in the bot lane or something along those lines.
The Kayn taking that teleport could be the saving grace, whereas if Poro Land did not have the teleport to match, 905 could definitely get some more opportunities. Granted, later in the game, when they're split pushing, the Renekton could teleport in, but thankfully Kayn can match that as well at this point.
Are we looking at Ignite on both Katarina and Alistar?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Screen's a bit cut off.
Yeah, it's cut off for me as well.
Yeah. So one thing about the Kayn, despite being a melee champion, people have tried to play him in the mid lane and found some success in the past into things like Katarina, because his mobility, with the Q being on such a short cooldown, enables him to engage in trades and also dodge out of the way of some damage. And while I assume he's going to be starting with the W for poking down both Cat and the back set of caster creeps, we'll have to see how the trades end up going, because I would call this entirely a skill-based matchup in the early game with regards to who is going to be able to bully out the other one more effectively.
I will say I really do like Poro Land's choices in champs. It's very obvious that they're trying to take control of the map and out-rotate the other team. And I think their picks are very clever in this, because obviously Evelynn, she won't be able to be seen post 6. Kayn can roam right through walls. Tryndamere is a great split pusher. Tryndamere's hard to kill with his ult. Kayn's hard to kill with his ult. And then you have the Soraka to boot. So I think that will give them a big advantage throughout the mid game. But as the game goes later on, I could see the fights tipping in 905's favor, even if they couldn't control the map as well early on. Their comp does seem like it would have a better chance in a straight-up team fight.
Because Alistar isn't one of the supports that typically rushes Ardent Censer, I've seen one game where it was done in combination with Stoneborn, but that was an irregularity. What I really want to see from 905 is an attempt to extend vision into the side of Poro Land's jungle early on to try and get some wards down on camps, because Evelyn's going to be visible while she's clearing things, and giving 905 that evidence as to where she's pathing, what she's doing, and where she might appear next is going to be really valuable for them attempting to negate some of the early pressure that Poro Land wants to bring to the table.
Yeah, vision control is going to be very big early on. I would agree with that. I would think in 905's case, I think they would be looking to push a lot of deep warding, just so they can keep track of Evelyn while they still can. After that, it might come to them having to bring their vision back a little more, maybe towards the river and somewhat in their jungle. They're going to have to make sure they can keep up with their pink wards and get them in places that'll spot out the Evelyn before she can get to a gank. But it really just does come down to vision control. If Poro Land can do a good job maintaining vision, clearing vision and maintaining their own.
Yeah, one thing I'll be interested to see from the Kazakhs is which evolution he goes for first. While, of course, in the old days it used to be that you would always go Q first just for the reduced cooldown and the damage in isolation. What I've seen recently with a couple of junglers at Worlds also is putting a point into the evolved R, where if you go into a bush, you get about a second and a half, I believe, of stealth. Something like that could be very useful for trying to make shallow invades or scouting runs into the river, into Evelyn's jungle, and try to get some of these wards down if he opts into the Tracker's Knife, because all of a sudden you have much more safety in terms of extending that vision line, and while you do lose a little bit of the dueling power, I think that 905 is going to be opting to play around their bot lane and try to get a numbers advantage instead of opting into the 1v1 skirmishes in the jungle.
And we got the game starting up. Looks like right now. Chants are loading in.
All right. One moment, I am switching a few things around on the stream. All right. My apologies. One moment. We are in game. Looks like both sides are maybe going to opt in to the standard 5-man fan out across the river to try and prevent any early invades. It seems like a sensible thing for 905 in particular to do, given that they want to prevent Evelyn from perhaps getting a ward down on one of the buffs and going for an invade to try and counter that.
And it would appear that Poro Land isn't even trying to push out too far. Let's see, dip toe in the water, see if they can find any early information.
I don't really have friends, just people
That
I
should be off.
yet. I don't really have friends.
Yeah,
Now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Kayn has taken up a position in this pixel brush on topside river, so we'll see if anyone tries to face check that. As it stands, I think Renekton's just going to go for the leash on red with Kazakhs, and nothing's going to come of it. But this is something that I think foreshadows what he's going to be doing later in the game. I'd like to see Kayn leaving mid lane whenever he can shove out the wave, and just roaming off to the side, because his mobility and the fact that he won't be there applies pressure to the side lanes and helps out, because if you don't have vision on him, at any moment you could see the Evelyn and the Kayn appearing either top or bot for the side of Poro Land.
And we were wrong. It looks like it's the Tryndamere mid lane. Now, that's not completely unheard of. I know it has been a while since I've seen it.
Alright, Evelyn looking to get a fairly good clear off on that red buff without taking too much health. Kazakh's going to finish it just a bit later, and he has been chunked pretty hard, but the combination of that potion and the red buff sustain is going to get him back up fairly quickly. In the top lane, we're seeing some early trades going on from the Kayn. One interesting thing that may come about as a result of this is that by playing into the Renekton matchup, he's guaranteed to be picking up the orbs from the melee matchup, which will allow him to go into the transformation for the red Kayn earlier. When you see him jungle, sometimes it's difficult to get orbs early, and then you end up with a late transformation, and a lot of your power remains locked away. But with laning as Kayn, you're guaranteed to get some of that down. And he is bullying out, and that's a flash forced out of the Renekton.
That's going to cause some problems for 905. They're creating quite a bit of pressure top early
And
on.
that's a
And we
flash
got a
engage
smash in
from the
bot lane.
Alistar. Ignite goes down to the Soraka, but she flashes away and gets the heal out of Vayne just in time to stay alive. Aggressive trade from the Draven coming in, but nothing done yet other than a trade of summoners in the bot lane.
I think that was actually very good for that to happen for 905, considering they're getting pressured pretty hard up top. They're able
Alright, and
to counteract
another
some of that
trade
pressure
going
bot.
down in the bot lane. Alistar getting chunked out by Vayne on the tail end of that one. You see Mirror jungle invade, but Evelynn is coming topside. Having put the charm down onto Renekton, they may be trying to go for a dive here as the wave crashes in, but it looks like she's going to peel off and just go for the Krugs instead. Kha'Zix still hovering in the river, getting the Scuttle Crab to try and perhaps get some vision and prevent a roam down. I like the strategy, especially since he already put the ward down on Raptors and is going to be able to safely go for an invade there. Back in the top lane, Renekton continues to be chunked out and forced to sit under tower. If we take a quick look at the scoreboard, we're going to see that that's already a 21-8 CS lead. And that's a charm, and that's a clean dive.
Yeah.
Looks like he's not going to take too many tower shots on the way out. Evelynn tanked all the way through. Clean first blood picked up by the side of Poro Land. Looks like Kha'Zix may be trying to counter on the bot lane, but a good impale from Vayne is going to keep them. And she steps forward. Flash forced out as Kha'Zix leaps in. Takes a few tower shots for his trouble, but that's going to force the back out of Poro Land's bot lane.
I do like what 905 was trying to go for in bot lane, considering they got dove top. The jungler was trying, Kha'Zix was trying to make his way down bot, so he could try to make something happen elsewhere on the map, where he knew he would have the numbers advantage. Yeah. But unfortunately, they were not able to make anything happen out of that.
Yeah, in the mid lane we see CS being pretty much exactly even. Despite the fact that Katarina has the range advantage, the Tryndamere's ability to get onto her and trade aggressively with the early crits means that she's respecting that and just trying to farm up as opposed to going for any kill herself. In the top lane, Renekton, by pushing this wave out, has managed to get a little bit of a CS back, but having burned the teleport early and still being 17 down, that's turning into a sizable lead for the Kayn. Looks like 905 is going to go for a recall on their bot lane, and we'll wait to see what Draken picks up. That's an early Relic Shield upgrade for the Alistar to the Targon's Brace, going to help with the gold generation there, and get him towards that shield. And that's a pickaxe from the Draven, perhaps not as dramatic as the BF sword, but when you compare it to the longsword and 2 potions that the Vayne picked up, it's just going to increase the discrepancy of these bot lanes in terms of their ability to take trades.
Now this is true, the itemization is a little, Draven has slightly more AD at the moment, but I will say Geneva's been playing this bot lane very well, considering how much early damage.
That's an engage from the Katarina
that Alistar and Draven have.
Alright. As the bot laners meet again with 905 having just come back from base, it looks like they're just going to be content to take this wave and not do much more beyond that. Kha'Zix is doing a good job of walking into the jungle. You can see a line of wards all up and down the river for 905's side, and Kha'Zix is sitting here hoping to maybe catch Evelynn out. On the mid lane, Katarina throws ult and ignite down on Tryndamere, but with his ult available, he doesn't even see fit to use it. But Kha'Zix is flanking on the bot lane, and that is a good kill, and it's placed onto Draven as well. Well played by 905 in the bot lane. Looks like he's chasing, and that's the double kill as they trade tower aggro very deftly on the back end of that trade. Good map awareness from Kha'Zix to come down as soon as he realized that Evelynn wasn't in that jungle, and a solid engage from Alistar follows it up. Didn't even need to burn the ignite to secure 2 kills for the Draven, who is now going to be off to a healthy lead. And that's a second follow-up dive on the top lane. Hold on one moment, and I'm going to get a replay up on that so that we can take a closer look at what went down. Alright, looks like Renekton's low under tower. Goes for a trade onto Kayn, who has just hit 6. He's going to tag him and ult in to avoid the tower aggros. Evelynn comes in to get the final tick of damage off. Clever execution and abuse of the fact that Kayn did have a level advantage after the previous set of trading that went on.
Yeah, right now it's looking like Poro Land's going to have to play through their top lane. They have quite an advantage up there right now, and that was actually a fairly big misplay down bottom.
Oh wow, alright. Evelynn's going to have the flash forced out, and Kha'Zix flashes to follow, but I think she's going to be able to wait out a little bit of BM coming out on the backside. But walks back in, the ignite is down, but he cannot get the last Q off onto Evelynn. That disrespect or greed is going to land the side of Poro Land with another kill, this time onto their Evelynn as well. Kane has come down to the mid lane, forcing a trade onto Katarina, who's now going to burn flash and be forced to recall under tower. All in all, that top and mid lane pressure with the Evelynn that we were talking about in Champ Select has seemed to come through, as Poro Land have been playing really adeptly around those lanes. However, a 3-0 Draven is nothing to mess with, as another kill has gone down onto Vayne there. Evelynn going to clear a few camps and looks to be going for the standard Runic Echoes enchantment. We used to see before that we were occasional AD Evelynn builds coming out, but this looks like it's just going to be the standard. Kha'Zix is still level 4 despite the fact that he's gone for some good plays, and while he's going to be ticking up to 5 and then 6 shortly thereafter, I want to see him try and farm through this last little bit as quickly as possible and try to maybe start going into the jungle and contesting camps and vision from Evelynn, since his dueling power is now stronger, despite the fact that she has her Runic Echoes completed. Kane still has not come through with a transformation, but given that he's continued to trade with Renekton and even got a little bit of a room off onto Katarina, he's got to be getting close to filling that meter with the red orbs necessary for the transformation into Rost. Draven ticks over to 6, and with Alistar coming back to lane and Kha'Zix on the bot side, we may see something there. Katarina trading aggressively with the Tryndamere in the mid lane, but both of them have so much high mobility that it's fairly easy for either one to get out. Combine this with the Tryndamere healing, you're seeing something where neither one can fully commit to kill the other. Kane going in onto top lane, doing a lot of damage with his Phantom Dancer completed first item. Renekton's continuing to be bullied under tower, and I just don't think he's going to be able to do much contesting this lane. With Evelynn up here to try and do it, they may go for a third dive, and there you go, third time's the charm. There we see the Evelynn ult coming out. That does an amazing amount of damage in front of you and also sends you backwards, making you briefly untargetable. So it's great for juggling tower aggro in a situation like this. With the red buff on her, it looks like they're going to be able to tick down this first turret of the game in top lane. While Renekton may be freed up. Oh, and hold that thought. Flash forced out of Tryndamere, but Kha'Zix is able to re-engage and go in there as a clever E from the Katarina gets her just out of range.
So, Poro Land is struggling a little bit, it seems like, in the bot. I mean, Vayne definitely has a lot of potential to come back later in the game and become relevant again. But that Draven, when they start roaming, if they get that tower down, that's going to cause a lot of problems once the Draven and Alistar start entering fights.
We see Kha'Zix back in the bot lane. And it looks like he has gone for the R-Vol first that I was talking about. This may help him dodge the vision on that ward that you can see that's about to expire in the Tri-Brush. But no, they're going to see him just in time. Forcing flashes out as the Alistar goes in. And jumping into the tower, it looks like Vayne burns the heal.
This is turning into a 4-man.
Oh, that's a Draven ult that does not do anything. And Kane picking up a huge amount of damage on the back end. 2 kills for him. And Evelynn getting another. So despite the fact that the bot lane has been pushed in a little bit, getting a kill onto both of them there is likely going to mean that Poro Land can turn this into the Mountain Drake. Good rotation of their fed jungler and top laner down to try and contest that play.
Yeah, Poro Land did an excellent job right there of trying to transition their lead from bot to top.
Renekton apparently just fingered the flash by accident there, as he's now forced to burn ult after the Tryndamere trading with him. Takes another couple of tower shots for his trouble. Tryndamere goes in with him. He also has a Phantom Dancer and got a fat crit down on the backside of that trade. Renekton with his Fury is going to be able to heal up fairly readily though, so not much is going to come of that. Evelynn hovering around the mid lane again as Katarina looks to shove this wave. Ping comes down, looks like they may try to do something. There's a charm coming out and goes in. Kane does an enormous amount of burst, and that Evelynn ult again. Despite the fact that it does have a decently long cooldown in the early game, she's made good use of it, taking 2 kills and getting perfectly out with it. So this is really heads-up play from the side of Poro Land, using a champion that a lot of people may not be familiar with. And Kha'Zix first to ult, the charm comes in, and Kane picks up another kill. That's a total of 8 kills between the jungler and top laner for the side of Poro Land. Really impressive stuff there.
I believe 905 really needs to step their vision game up. Evelynn has been top quite a bit. They would have been able to pick out some of these potential dives a lot sooner had they had more vision up. We can see that Poro Land is doing a very good job of warding. They have quite a few deep wards right now, in Kha'Zix's topside jungle, and a few down in the bot, but we're not seeing many pinks.
We've seen 905 at least attempt to maintain some more vision control around their bot lane with Alistar going for the Sightstone. In fact, both supports have gone for that. Interestingly enough, the Soraka also opted into the Sightstone instead of the more common Ardent Sensor that you see these days. Good interrupt from Draven onto Kayn there that sort of shuts down his ability to get in. But you can see that Poro Land continues to try and put some pressure on lanes with the Kayn given his mobility. That's an engage from the Katarina, and
They are
the
split up
Sona
right now.
is, or the Soraka rather, is simply blown up by the jungler and mid laner from 905, utilizing those two assassins very effectively.
Kayn is down bot by himself right now with 4 members of 905 there. That could be a potential issue, but it doesn't. Kha'Zix is lingering. We'll
If we
see
look
what
at
happens.
Kayn right this second, he has gone ahead and maxed the W for Waveflare, but into the Alistar, I don't think it's safe for him to go in. And he dips into the wall, maybe going to go around and try to, but no, just going to go in and ults into Draven just for sustain. And that's a lot of damage coming down onto him, and he's simply not going to be able to clear it. But the Evelynn damage on the backside is simply ridiculous. She's going to pick up 2, and I think all in all, given that they kept the turret up as well, while Tryndamere continues to push on the top lane, that's a worthwhile trade on the side of 905.
No, it definitely was not played badly by Poro Land. I would have liked to see Kayn hold the ult.
Ooh, I messed that up. Yeah, apologies. That was intended to say worthwhile trade on the side of Poro Land for keeping the tower up. Back up one moment and watch how this fight in the jungle goes down. Looks like Evelynn is just going to walk up while Kha'Zix is sitting there. She's spotted out by the Scryer's Bloom, walks up to the bush without vision, and the 2 assassins just jump on her and blast her again. Indeed, we're going to see Katarina roam in and kill Soraka as well on the backside of this. Just walking in without necessarily thinking about it. Ignite goes down, and she's done for. Yeah, what we have seen here is Poro Land's vision that we were talking about just a moment ago has been largely removed or expired. And so 905 are able to get a couple kills back on the backside of some lack of vision, where they sit in bushes, do some other stuff, and with the bot side now pushing on as they had gone too strong in the mid lane. It'll be interesting to see if this develops into a fight. Evelynn, Kayn, and Tryndamere all flanking around the backside. Kha'Zix is in the bush, and they're onto him. Kayn being red doesn't do as much damage as he could. Oh, Tryndamere gets onto him there. And in fact, they are going to kill Kayn with the Draven ult before anything else comes down, but the Draven is going to fall on the backside as well. Soraka caught out of position again as Katarina picks up another kill. Tryndamere's ult comes out, but he is forced to flash the W from Kha'Zix, and it looks like the Katarina Bouncing Dagger is going to pick up that kill as well. This is a huge fight in the bot lane on the side of 905 as they take back a lot in terms of damage. It's going to be interesting to see what can they do with this pressure. Vayne is still pushing on the top side alone. Level 8 getting some solo experience and solo gold to make up for the punishment they received in bot lane, but it looks like 905 are going to keep pushing onto this inner turret, and no, Renekton's going to be forced to contest the top lane, and a charm is going to knock him out of that. TP goes on cooldown. Let's see how much damage they're going to be able to get down onto this inner turret in the bot lane as Vayne contests top. She's already gotten it down to half, but with the wave resetting a bit and bouncing out, I don't think that's going to be too much more with Renekton now having recalled and walking back up. Going in bot lane, Katarina goes in for the Soraka again and dies. Alistar flashes out.
We still have the Vayne
There's
top
a
lane. That fight, bot lane could have largely been avoided if more vision had been placed.
Kayn going in, flashes in, but interrupted by Draven, and he's just going to get burst out, despite the fact that he gets a lot of damage down. Alistar's dead, though, and the Tryndamere picks up 2 kills. Ah, no, Evelynn gets the one on the backside. Draven, in this long lane, is also not going to have a good time as Evelynn jumps onto him with that Empowered E. Extremely bloody game coming out here from both sides. Given the amount of assassins and ignites you see, I'm not exactly surprised, but given the early game, it's a good idea of 905's that they keep going for some of these plays. However, their vision and their ability to stay later hasn't necessarily led to them getting the cleanest trades on the back ends of some of these things.
No, it has been an absolute slugfest so far.
We're seeing the Evelynn on the Infernal Drake alone, she has a lot of damage and it's just going to burst this down very quickly. That's going to help the scaling. And with Infernal and Mountain now over onto the side of Poro Land, that's going to make it even easier for them to take towers if they do happen to snowball further off of the back of one particularly explosive fight. Saw a couple of pings go down onto the Rift Herald from the side of 905. They may be looking to contest this before it fades. W from the Kazakhs coming in, and they have 4 people on this. Evelyn's waiting in the wings, but the pink ward is going to spot her out if she attempts to get closer, and I don't think it's wise for her to go in and try to contest this, seeing as 905 have pushed it to the back of the pit to ensure that nobody's going to have a chance at interrupting them while they finish off the objective. Evelyn posturing fairly aggressively, but Alistar sitting in the mouth of the pit with that pink ward is going to make it very difficult for anyone to do something about it. See the Herald buff going over onto Katarina. Hopefully they're going to try and shove down this mid lane turret, which has remained remarkably resilient because of the Tryndamere constantly shoving. Yep, Herald immediately summoned. With all 5 members here and Kayn on the top side, while Vayne rotates out from bottom, they're just going to take this mid lane outer turret for free. Perhaps they're going to try to go in. Renekton ease in, gets the stun, but Evelyn is able to protobell out in time. Soraka just gets blown up on the backside. Alistar headbutts. Vayne trying to deal out damage, but it's not going to be enough. Tryndamere does pick up a kill onto the Draven, eating through. And Vayne with the ult is able to get damage down and take out Renekton as well. That's Kazakhs not respecting the Vayne damage and getting burst out himself, although Alistar will pick up the kill on the backside, the red buck from Kazakhs. Helping
And
out a
that's
bit.
big. That is the base cracked right now as well.
Yeah, but Kayn has just been pushing in the top lane the whole time.
I think we've been waiting to see that for a while now too. Vayne has been absent from quite a few fights recently, having to play catch up, and she was not in on that big fight bot lane. But it was good to see her there. She played. Janeba played that very, very well.
That's a Soraka out on this Katarina. Gets out just in time with the red buff sustain coming up. And that's it. Draven flashes in to get the last axe off and make sure that Kayn is not able to take down the mid laner of 905. Good defense on the inhibitor, as I realized that. The Rift Herald did, in fact, take the mid lane inner turret for 905 as well, so they were able to get some push down onto that. So it's not entirely lost for them, although the fact that with the Kayn and Tryndamere both split pushing, and the Vayne having shown a tendency to like to be in side lanes getting some of that extra farm as well, unless 905 has a better way of consistently applying that same pressure we saw them use in the mid lane, it may be difficult for them to apply a proper amount of stuff. And this is a duel of junglers, but that Evelyn damage is just insane. Gets the blue buff and the Kazakhs with the ult, and gets out. Renekton's not going to be able to follow with her stealth there. Neatly dodges the Scar's Bloom, sustaining up off the red buff. Going to sit in Dragon Pit, seeing as they don't know where she is. I want to see her try to go for a pick on this Draven here. Yeah, and with the charm coming down, she's going to burn out. And Draven ult comes out, flashes over the wall to try and stealth out, but not going to be able to do anything, as Draven does pick up the kill with a neat interrupt and outplay.
And it's a shame. Evelyn probably could have gotten out of that had she just walked down river towards the beginning, but as the members of 905 just started pouring into the river, she eventually got spotted out, which is a shame. I would have liked to see during that time, this is a chance for both teams to kind of breathe a little bit. The game will slow down for a moment as waves push in and out. People clear the jungle camps. I think
going for aggressive trades onto the Alistar, but he's headbutted away as the Courage of the Colossus makes sure that there's no way that Jason is going to be able to take out Gaskell from the side of 905. Aggressive trading down onto the top lane, and the Tryndamere just blasts the Renekton with the Ignite going down to reduce the healing on the backside. He's going to perhaps be looking to shove in and get some pressure onto this inhibitor as Vayne also pressures on the bot side. Kazakhs and Katarina once again roaming as a duo down, and I think Vayne is going to be in a load of trouble here if she can't do anything about it. Pings come out onto Kazakhs, but with Katarina already there, I'm not sure if there's much of a way she can win this. Yeah, you see the ult and the Gunblade going down, and that's a dead Vayne. In the top side, we see the Tryndamere trying to trade back, and Draven is getting smacked around a little bit as the Kayn ult comes in, saves him from some of the burst, and pushes that. And now you have 2 of the members of Poro Land pushing onto the top lane inhibitor at last. Meanwhile, Evelyn's going to be dueling Katarina in the river, and again, that ult just provides so much peel for her with the vulnerability as it moves her back and executes Katarina at the same time. With this much damage, 905 may look to
They
crack
are.
a Nexus turret here, seeing as only the Renekton is alive, as Draven's going to be up in another
They
6
might be
seconds.
looking to
They
end it
may be
right
trying
here.
to end. With so much damage on these two split pushers, this is going to be an awfully interesting end to the game. Trying to get around the Nexus, and I don't
Trim
think
does
they're
have
going to
ult
be able
though.
to do it. Flash burned, and oh, that ult
Next
coming in clutch
game.
as he catches the last auto off into the Nexus, 50 gold, and we're going to see a very rapid into this game as one overextension by 905 and getting caught out leads to the Fed split pushers on the side of Poro Land shoving in for the win.
I think 905 played that very well, all things considered. But Poro Land just had two large split pushing threats. That Tryndamere can just absolutely melt towers. Kane can get in and out pretty safely with that is. So they were just not able to commit enough resources to either fight as a whole or split. You constantly saw 905 fighting with a full 5, whereas Poro Land would typically be down a man. We saw the Vayne up top when the big fight was going on bot lane. We saw Tryndamere and Kane constantly up atop, pushing that top lane over and over again. And 905 just didn't really have much of a chance to respond to that. Renekton was just pretty far behind, and he was not able to single-handedly hold these people off.
Yeah, well, I think what you saw from both teams actually playing very well around was the idea of roaming with the jungler and the assassin. On the side of Poro Land, this was the Evelynn and the Kayn roaming together, and on the side of 905, Katarina and Kha'Zix made a couple trips bot lane to pick up kills, shove in the tower and whatnot that did seem to be giving them a bit of a way back into the game. But in the end, I think 905 was just not able to contend with the split pushing power, and while they did have the Draven and the Alistar who were scaling into the game very nicely and starting to be more capable of taking some of these fights, Poro Land recognized that they had an advantage, that both of their solo laners were able to do a lot of damage, not only during fights, but also to towers and objectives, and they just leveraged that very efficiently to go in for the end. I think a lot of that was accomplished, however, on the back of the Evelynn pick coming out of Neo Sai, who would just seem to be all over the map, invading, getting kills on Katarina, getting kills on Kha'Zix, and just shutting down 905's ability to pick off these split pushers by finding them in the river, exploiting the lack of vision, and then executing them once she had gotten ahead.
So in the coming game, I would like to see 905 commit more resources to their top lane. Their bot lane did well. I think they should still be able to do all right next game, but that lead that Kane got so early on, that was several kills that went over to Poro Land in the first 10 minutes or so in the game. And first turret went over to them as well. So I think that just created a big advantage for them early on, and they just kept pushing that advantage.
I do like that they decided to switch the Kayn to the top lane there, because given that it's a little bit more difficult for the Kha'Zix to apply pressure both there and bot side, which is where he wanted to be going anyway, it meant that Renekton just couldn't do much into the matchup and ended up getting slapped around, took a couple deaths on tower dives, and then had the tower taken away from him. Given
I agree.
that, if they are going to, if we are going to be seeing another more team fight oriented comp coming out of 905, I'd prefer them to take one of the more standard top laners, since they haven't necessarily shown so far that they're going to be winning in that matchup. Yeah. So yeah, very bloody first game where both teams picked a lot of high damage threats, ended up with a lot of back and forth, but eventually we just see the assassins and these power picks from the side of Poro Land getting further ahead in the early game and able to leverage that more effectively. So we'll see if 905 want to opt into the same sort of game again, indeed if either team does. But if we see something that's a bit more late game oriented from one side or the other, the question is, can they outscale and outplay in the early game long enough so that the soul comes in and they don't end up falling to a repeat of this really aggressive rotation heavy game from Poro Land?
Yeah, what I would like to see in the next game is for 905 to try to dictate the pace of the early game a little bit better. I don't think that they did a horrible job of it in the first game. I just think some advantages were made so early on that they didn't have a great opportunity to respond to. But this time around, I think they should try to slow down the game a little bit, try to play safer, and just take control of the map in ways that will keep them safe. If they're going to have people completely bullying one lane, I think they really need to do a good job of warding that up so they can spot out a jungler coming ahead of time.